それでは皆様お待たせいたしました。本日はウォーリック大学のウェビナーにご参加いただきありがとうございます。今日は、ジェームズ先生をお招きして、グローバル教育と開発学についてお話しいただきます。ウォーリック大学はイギリスの中でもラッセルグループの一員で、QS 世界ランキングでもトップ60位に入っている有名な大学になります。でジェームズ先生のご専門は、教育の中でも LGBTQ だったり、あと、タイでの、勉強や研究のご経験があったり、そして、ユニセフなどのアドバイザーを務められたことも、おありの方になります。で、皆様へのメールでは、もう1名の、先生のご参加をお知らせしておりましたが、ちょっとご都合上、本日はジェームズ先生のみになります。で、最後にQ&A のセッションがございますので、プレゼンテーションの途中でも何かご質問だったり、あと感想などがあれば、ぜひ積極的にご参加いただければと思います。それでは、先生の方にプレゼンテーションをしていただきたいと思います。So I'm very happy to welcome our guest today, Dr. Burfold. Now I'd like to hand it over to you, James.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And warm greetings from me from the UK. It's just gone 10 a.m. in the morning here. So a very good morning to you. I'm just going to share my slides now and we'll make a start. So just checking that you can see my slides clearly. Any thumbs up?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. As I said, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm really delighted to have the chance to share with you why I'm really passionate about working at Warwick University and why I'm really passionate about the Department of Education Studies that I work in. So as was just introduced, my name's Dr. James Burford. I work at the Department of Education Studies at Warwick. I'm an assistant professor of global education and international development. And perhaps as you can tell from my accent, I'm originally from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I've been living in the UK now for just a wee while, working at Warwick. So yeah, really pleased to be here and to give you a sense of what the university is like and what the department is like. So today I'm going to tell you a bit about the range of courses that we offer, and then I'm going to zoom in to look particularly at the master's course that I run, which is an MA Global Education and International Development. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to the talk we'll have today, and I hope to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Unfortunately, my colleague Sarah Dahl couldn't join me today. She had a late engagement that she had to go to, and so she sends her apologies, but she's passed her notes on to me so that I'm going to give those for her. So yeah, it's a shame that we don't have Sarah today. She's a lovely colleague who I hope one day you'll have the chance to meet. So without further ado, I'll continue with the presentation. So I'm wondering how many of you know where Warwick University is, because you know it's important when we're thinking about decisions about where we might want to study, that we have a sense of where in the world we might be going. So just to give you a bit of a sense, the University of Warwick is kind of right in the middle of the UK. So we're in the Midlands in the UK. Not too far away from London, and Warwick University itself is set in a beautiful park-like kind of campus away from the busyness of the city. It's a really idyllic and beautiful part of the world, and so that's a little bit, gives you a little bit of a clue about where Warwick University is. So now let me sort of move into talking a bit more about the department that I work in, which is the Department of Education Studies. And I guess the kind of first thing that I really want to say about that is that when we think about education, we're actually thinking about a wide range of disciplines that have an interest in teaching and learning and education. As you can see from the information here, education can be about all of these things. It can be about learning and primary education, e-learning. It can be about skills, knowledge. All sorts of things are wrapped up in what we're thinking about in the Department of Education Studies. So our department is a multidisciplinary department. We have sociologists and philosophers and people who are experts in disability education, early childhood education, people interested in global education like me. So that's a real benefit of coming to a department which is looking at education from all of these different angles. There's not only one discipline who can ever be interested in education. Education's too important. It's such a wide phenomenon that touches so many different people. So we really need lots of different kinds of academics looking at it from their own vantage points, their own disciplinary vantage points. So that's something that makes the department that I work in really special, because we do have colleagues from lots and lots of different kind of disciplinary backgrounds, all looking at what education is, what it might be, what it could be. That's what makes it a really exciting and interesting place to work and to study. I think hopefully that gives you a sense of how we're thinking about education in our department. So to give you a little bit of a sense of our department, as you can see, all of the fingers are pointing to the Department of Education Studies, which is the building that that's the building that we're working in and learning in. In terms of our community of learners, we have around 200 postgraduate taught students this year, over 70 undergraduate students studying in our undergraduate program. We have over 100 doctoral students, so we have a large research community working within our department, and we have at least 24 academic staff with some more colleagues joining us soon, and 5 academic and support staff. So as you can see, we're not a small department, but we're not one of those huge departments where everybody doesn't know each other. I think our department is sort of small enough that you know who your colleagues are, you know who your teachers are, you know the other students in your courses, that kind of thing, which is something that I think is really valuable. I guess one of the best ways to get to know a little bit more about our staff would be to have a look on the website, to look through the staff pages, to have a look at all of the research that our academic colleagues are creating and all the projects that they're involved in, and have a look and see if there's a good match with some of the interests that you're interested in. I think that would be a really good start. But yeah, this is a small snapshot into the community that we're a part of. Also, feel free to ask questions during the presentation. I'm really happy to pause at any time. So now let me sort of zoom in to have a look at our postgraduate taught courses, so our master's courses. As you can see, there are a range of courses to match the multidisciplinary nature of the field of education studies and the expertise of our academic staff. So here you can see we have a sort of general course, which is the MA Education, for those of you who might be interested in being educational generalists. You're broadly interested in the field of education studies. This might be a really good master's course for you. We also have more specialized courses, including the MA Educational Innovation, MA Psychology and Education, MA Educational Leadership and Management, MA Islamic Education, MA Global Education and International Development, the MA Childhood and Society, the MA Drama and Theatre Education, and the MA Drama and English Language Teaching. So as you can see, there's a number of different kinds of opportunities to sort of specialize and think about particular angles of education studies. I see that there's a question in the chat, which I'm very happy to answer. What is global education? That's a really good question. I'm gonna move into talking a little bit more about the MA in global education in just a moment. But global education really is looking at how education connects with questions of globalization, education in different parts of the world, and how certain educational issues are global issues that not one country can address in isolation. So I'll talk a little bit more about what exactly global education is in just a moment, but the kind of focus of the course is looking at questions of globalization and questions of education as a transnational phenomenon, as a phenomenon that takes place in many different countries around the world, and being really interested in what's going on there. But we'll address some of those questions in greater detail in just a moment. So as you can see, there's a really wide range of possible PGT courses, and I'd really encourage you to have a look, ask some questions, and particularly have a look on our website, and in the brochure there's plenty of information on the kind of key details of each of these courses. But it really, in making these decisions about what to study, you've got to really think about your interests, what you're passionate about, and thinking about how that might connect with your kind of career purpose as you're thinking about your future. So I hope this gives you a little bit of a sense of some of the courses that are possible. So I'll talk about some of the kind of technical or course structure detail now. I won't spend too long on this because there's plenty of information on the website which will go through that in greater detail. But in general, all of our master's programs have some combination of a core module, so that if you look back to some of these courses, there may be a core, there is usually a core module that's involved that you need to pass, and that you need to engage, which kind of covers some of the key material that's relevant to the course. In addition to the core module, there is research methods training to help you learn about what research is and what it means to become familiar with research and being a researcher. And there's also a compulsory dissertation, which gives you a chance to have an extended period of time engaging in research, thinking about research, and focusing on a topic that you're really interested in. So that always happens toward the end of the master's degree. So you've got core courses, including research methods training and a research project. Those are a part of all of the master's programs. Then there are some kind of optional core programs, so modules, I mean. So there are some kind of suggested modules that one might take as part of the program, and we have one of those in my program, Global Education and International Development. And then there's optional modules that you can take which might match with your interests, and so we have a wide range of optional modules that you can take, both within the department and outside the department, so that you can sort of bring together the interests that you have and follow those accordingly. So that gives you a bit of a sense. There's a combination of modules you have to take and modules you can choose to take. So hopefully this gives you both the opportunity to specialize and get really familiar with an area that you want to develop in further, but it also gives you the chance to try something new, to extend yourself and explore what you might be interested in. So we hope that this gives you a really good kind of opportunity to do a mixture of things. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast. Please let me know if you've got any further questions. Okay, so I've given you a bit of a sense of the Department of Education Studies and an overview of the PGT programs that we have. So now I thought what I'd do is just move toward my specialty and my interest, which is global education and international development. And I thought what I would do is just give you a bit of a sense of my research background and what it is that I do as a researcher. So as you can see, I do lots of different things. In the center of the graph, you see here the kind of core area of my research is global education and international development. And within that focus, I do research on international higher education and higher education in the global south. I'm also really interested in graduate education and the academic profession. So I'm interested in what it means to be an academic and the experiences of graduate students. And I'm also interested in gender and sexuality as kind of cross-cutting issues in global education and international development. So some of the particular research projects that I've worked on are around academic migration. I've worked on conferences and events. I've done research and edited a book on doctoral writing called Reimagining Doctoral Writing. And I'm also really interested in sexuality education, LGBTQI, so that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex issues in education, and also bullying as a phenomenon in secondary education. So you can see that I have a kind of really wide range of research interests, but all within this kind of framework of global education and international development. So the key kind of geographical areas that I've worked in the past are Southeast Asia and Oceania. So coming from New Zealand and having experience working both in New Zealand and Australia, the Pacific is a kind of key area where a lot of my research has been based. But another kind of key context, research context for me has been Thailand, where I spent some years working as an academic and doing research about higher education in Thailand, but also sexuality education in Thailand. So those are two kind of key geographical contexts where I do research, which I really bring that kind of experience into the classroom and into the program. So I won't go too much through the kind of theoretical and methodological stuff, unless anyone's particularly interested in that. I'm really happy to pick that up in the questions. But maybe I can tell you a little bit of what it is that I'm currently doing. So I've done research looking at, as I said, academic migrants, so academics who are moving around to different parts of the world. I've recently finished a book called Making Sense of Academic Conferences with my colleague, Dr. Emily Henderson, which will hopefully be coming out this year. I'm currently running a blog called Conference Inference Blog, and I'd really encourage you to check it out if you're interested, which is a blog all about academic conferences. I'm finishing off a couple of projects on Thai graduate education, looking at how university students experience the space of the campus, as well as a project on internationalization at home with colleagues who have done research in Malaysian and Thai higher education. And I've recently been working on a project looking at doctoral admission. So that's another kind of recent project that I've been working on this year. So I hope that I don't want to sort of go on too long about who I am and what it is that I do. But I hope that this gives you a sense of the kind of breadth of experience and research that I bring to teaching a program like the MA Global Education and International Development. And alongside me are other really talented colleagues who have all got experience in different parts of the world and different research areas, which I hope brings a real wealth of experience and diversity to the program. So I'm just checking to see if there's any questions. Oh, great question. Just my curiosity, what motivated you to get curious about queer studies in Thailand? I guess part of my research interest was really looking at sexuality education and public health education in Thailand, where there's been there had been a really big problem with HIV and AIDS, and I was really kind of passionate and connected to queer communities in Thailand, following on from earlier research that I'd done in that area. So I guess I'd been interested in queer studies in New Zealand and had done research there. And then also when I got to Thailand, got connected with those communities and with colleagues in that research field, and sort of fell into doing that kind of research in Thailand too. So I've been fortunate to do a number of different studies with Thai colleagues, both looking at exclusion and discrimination for queer communities in Thailand, but also looking at the experiences of a number of young people in engaging with sexuality education. So thank you for your question. It's really, I think, the question of why we get interested in certain topics is one that should be asked. Yeah, thank you. Really happy to take up further kind of questions in later on when we have a chance. But for now, maybe what I'll do is move through to talking a little bit more about the course that I lead, which is the MA Global Education and International Development. So as I kind of have said, I come to education with a background working internationally on key issues like sexuality education, health education, prevention of gender-based violence, and schooling issues and issues of equity and inclusion in higher education in general. So often what this program really seeks to do is to understand the often contradictory role that education plays in public debates and policy discourses. So education can be configured as something like a silver bullet, something that is the solution to global inequalities and a vehicle for social progress. So often we have a lot of hope in education, right? We believe that education is something that can fix a lot of the problems that we have in the world. But equally, education can be blamed for not delivering on its promise, and for actually reproducing or producing or exacerbating the problems that it was supposed to solve. So education's a really complex phenomenon. It has the potential to do a lot of good in the world, but it also has the potential to keep in place lots of things that are harmful or to exacerbate inequalities. So this MA program is really sort of situated in the middle of these debates. It begins with the premise that education is a site affected by patterns of globalization and policy changes relating to international development and aid. So the program really seeks to bring together different kinds of theoretical and conceptual challenges, but it also brings applied considerations for education practitioners and development interventions. So this MA program tries to offer a mixture of important theoretical and conceptual thinking and opportunity to explore more and really kind of challenge some of our thinking. And it also wants to help those of you who are interested in moving into more practice-based roles to have an opportunity to test these ideas out in practice. So the MA also includes an option to take a placement module, which offers opportunities to enhance professional skills and employability. So there's a chance to actually link what you're learning in the classroom with what happens in real life. So I guess what is this program for? If you aspire to critically engage with some of the most important questions of the current moment, then maybe this is a good kind of master's program to consider. It's perhaps you want to work in the education sector and hope to increase the global reach of your work. Maybe you have an international development background and you want to specialize in education issues. This course really offers opportunities for you to enhance, as I said, both your knowledge and practical skills. So the key kind of learning objectives for this program are to help you to critically appraise ideas and engage with academic debate on issues related to globalization, internationalization, international development, and education, to help you develop your capacity for advancing evidence-based arguments and drawing conclusions supported by data. So we're really interested in helping you think in a more research-informed way, to make research-informed arguments, to expand your intellectual worldview with regard to the role of education and the connections between globalization and international development, and to help develop the critical skills and intellectual rigor required to review diverse bodies of research and analyze and synthesize findings. So that's something that we practice both through the through the modules on the course, but also through your dissertation research. And we really want to equip all of our students with better understandings of the past, current, and future of both academic and policy discourses around what works in education and development. And we have a particular emphasis on the sustainable development agenda. So overall, we hope to enhance your breadth of knowledge of education, both in terms of its systems and contexts. And those are kind of goals that we explore throughout the master's program. So here's a little bit of a sense of the structure of the MA, Global Education and International Development, the course structure. In term one, you would study the compulsory module, which is understanding global education and international development. You would also take the compulsory foundation research methods module. And then between term one or term two, you have the opportunity to choose an optional module. And then in term two, again, you have an optional module, or you could choose our placement module, which is that module where we link you with a local organization that is working in the area of international education, global education, international development and education. And then across terms 1, 2, and 3, you would be undertaking and preparing for the dissertation, which is something that you're sort of building up towards all through the masters. So that's sort of kind of, you know, that's the focus of the structure of the course. But much of the kind of work of the dissertation happens in term 3, which is now. I'm just checking, there's a comment here. I wonder if there's any outside opportunities related to global education, such as conferences, talks, events outside of class in Warwick. Do you know any possible provided chances that students can apply in their learning? Absolutely, that's such a great question. So as the course leader of this program, I really encourage all of the students involved to get involved in conferences, events, talks, that kind of thing. So I'm a really active course leader. I'm always looking for opportunities for students and sending them their way. So a number of our PGT students, our master's students, have been attending international seminars, conferences, that kind of thing. both at Warwick and around the UK. The UK is not a huge country, so it's not too hard to get around to different presentations and talks and seminars and that kind of thing. It's often quite accessible on the train, or to sort of zoom into. So yeah, that's a really great question, but that's something I'm really committed to as a course leader. I know that learning doesn't just happen inside my classroom. It's about creating a wider learning environment and lots of different opportunities for you to think about the material of the course, throughout the entire time that you're based at Warwick. So yeah, thanks. That's a great question and something I'm really committed to. So yeah, I hope that this sort of gives you a sense of the structure of the course. As I said, there's a bit of a choice. You have some core modules and some choice, which allows you to sort of explore your interests in greater detail. So for example, if you're somebody who's really interested in global education and also you're interested in early childhood education, there is an opportunity for you to take the MA Global Education and International Development and combine that with a module which is looking at early childhood education, for example. So we try and give enough room for you to really bring together a program of learning that's going to work for you and your interests and where you want to go. So I hope that gives you a bit of an introduction. For those of you who were listening when I was talking about EGEID, so that's in term 2, which is an optional module, which is only available for students who take the MA Global Education and International Development. For those of you who are listening and thinking, oh, placement sounds interesting, I wonder kind of what placements there might be. Here's a kind of list of examples of the types of placements that we have offered to students in the past. So we've offered placements within universities, for example, the International Employment Team. We've had people working in the mobility team, foundation studies, that kind of area. So if you're interested in perhaps moving into working inside a university, there are opportunities to to have placements in that kind of area. But we've also had a whole range of different placements in different kinds of aspects of the education sector. So there have been placements in NGOs that work primarily in the Global South. We've had students working in the UN Association in Coventry branch. We've had students working for NGOs or non-profits based both in the UK and overseas remotely. So we really have good networks and good connections with different organizations that we use to sort of provide opportunities for our students. And we're really committed to these relationships and these partners. And so we try and maintain really good relationships with them so that they are really excited about offering placements and offering projects for our students. We're also happy to offer kind of particular placements if you have an organization in mind or a type of organization in mind. So yeah, that's something that we're really sort of flexible with the kinds of placements that we offer. So happy to sort of talk in a bit more detail about what kinds of projects students do and that sort of thing in the Q&A if you have any questions about that. But hopefully this gives you a sense of the kinds of organizations that you might be able to be connected with and have a project with through our program. So for those of you who might be interested in asking questions about funding and scholarships, sorry, I'm just going to take a glass of water. We have an Education Studies Department Continuation Scholarship. The deadline for application for this is the 1st of June. I won't focus on the BA scholarships. We also have Education Studies Department Excellence Scholarship. Again, deadline is the 1st of June 2020 for a student with sustained academic or professional excellence. And we have the Education Department's Winston Scholarship with a deadline again for the 1st of June. And that is for an MA Drama and Theatre Education student. And that's worth £5,000 or for a home, or $10,000 for an overseas student. And there are also plenty of other funding and scholarship opportunities that you can find on the Doctoral College website if you're interested in doctoral study. So before I sort of hand over to time for questions and discussion, I just wanted to highlight a few things that I think are worth talking about. So one of these is our approach to teaching and learning. So as colleagues who are interested in education studies, we're really passionate about thinking about how we learn and teach. So as you can see from the pictures here on this slide, there are loads of different ways in which we embrace different kinds of pedagogies in our teaching and learning. So we have opportunities for kind of lectures, as you can see with my colleague Abdullah at the front. We have more opportunities for seminars and group work, which are a part of all of the master's programs that we offer. So there are smaller classes with good access to your instructors. We also make use of technology and think about how technology can enhance our teaching and learning. You can see in the slide on the top right is an example of a Padlet that colleagues have been using in their teaching. And then on the kind of bottom left-hand side, there are also kind of drama-based, movement-based, embodied kinds of pedagogies that our colleagues are using in their teaching too. So we don't just have one way of teaching. We think carefully about how we teach and what we're teaching and who we're teaching and why we're teaching. And we think really carefully about the kinds of pedagogies that are going to be best suited to learning together. So I think that's something that's really exciting about what we do in our department. In terms of the other things that I think are important to mention, as colleagues, we've thought really carefully about our master's programming and the kinds of skills, capacities, attributes, ways of being that we're teaching. So we have an emphasis on both strong academic skills. That's really important to us. We want all of our students to leave and to go out into the world feeling really confident that they know the material that they've studied well, they know how to write academic prose, they can construct arguments well, all of that kind of thing. But we also have a focus on transferable skills and employability as well. So we're both interested in your development as scholars, but also your development as people who are going to go out into the world and make change in it. So that's really a kind of focus of what we do. Some of the key kinds of transferable skills that we focus in on developing are around critical thinking, around reflection, and these are kind of woven into the practices of assessment that we create. We're really interested in developing your reflexivity, your ability to critically reflect and reflect on your own connection to issues. We're interested in your capacity to develop presentation skills, to facilitate, to kind of hold the floor and create opportunities for others to learn. And we want to create opportunities for you to think about your own kind of career planning and where you're going to go next. So in terms of where you might go next, if you've got questions about that, our degrees can lead in lots of different directions. We have students who go into teaching, both primary, secondary, further education. We have students who have joined in the NGO or charity sector, students who are interested in entrepreneurial pursuits and the kind of education entrepreneurship area. We have students who move into PhDs and into academia and research, students who have moved into social work, family support liaison. We have students who move into the corporate sector, as well as starting their own educational consultancies. So we have students who are kind of making change in lots of different parts of the world and lots of different kinds of career choices. So I hope that that gives you a bit of a sense of the possibilities that could be opened by kind of studying in the field of education studies. It really does open up opportunities in lots of interesting areas because education touches so many parts of society. Yeah, there's so many opportunities for kind of career growth and career movement in that area. So those were the kind of key topics that I wanted to cover in my presentation today. As you can see here, there is a link to our Warwick education website, which I really encourage you to have a look at. Please also follow us on Twitter at Warwick_edu, which is our handle on Twitter. We're active on there and we love to share the things that our students and our researchers are doing and to celebrate that and kind of promote that to the world. There's a couple of email addresses here. You can email our resource account at Education Studies at Warwick if you have particular kind of, if you have generic or general questions about studying in our department. You can also feel free to email me if you have particular questions about the Masters in Global Education and International Development. Really happy to answer emails, have a call with you, have a conversation. Really happy to do that. So I think that that's all that I've got. Happy to hand back and happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much for your insightful and informative presentation, James. And I'm glad to see many great questions already coming through the chat box. So I'd just like to ask a question from an agent perspective. We often get questions from students about the prior requirements. So for your education course, do you expect students with prior working experience, or do you have more students without any working background?
That's a great question. So work experience is not a requirement for applying to the MA Global Education International Development. But as somebody who's looking through applications, I pay a lot of attention to the personal statement. I really want to see where people's passion is and whether there is some kind of track record of interest and connection. So while work experience in the field is valuable and something that I look upon with great interest, I'm also looking for other kinds of experiences and activities that students might have been undertaking, whether this is sort of voluntary work, student groups. I guess I'm looking for a sort of well-rounded candidate who both has kind of academic expertise as well as a kind of clear connection to the area. So whether that's through sort of volunteering, showing your interest in the area, or whether that's through work experience, it's not a requirement, but it is something that I do look for and look upon as sort of indicating a level of experience that is valuable. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think you have already answered the next question. The next question is, do you encourage the students to experience internship or fieldwork?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think both kind of before applying, but also during the program, I think it is really valuable to get those kinds of real world experiences. That's not to say that what we learn in the classroom is not important and is not, doesn't have the possibility of leading to really profound learning. It does. But I think that what we learn in the classroom, what's really interesting is how it lands in professional contexts. So how can you take the learning that you're getting from school and then think about it in the context of, oh, how does this work in a real organization and in real policy contexts and in real teaching and learning encounters? So I think those are the opportunities of testing out how does the theory work in practice. So yeah, I think those are great opportunities to take on. Great question.
Thank you very much. 皆様ご質問ありがとうございます。今最後にご質問いただいたインターンシップやフィールドワークを経験することを奨励しますかっていうご質問ですけれども、先生の方からこちら実世界での経験をクラスルームに持ち込んでくることも非常に大事ですので、学校としてもそのコースリーダーとしても推奨するということでした。では、他に何かご質問ある方いらっしゃいましたら、今日は皆様英語でご質問いただいておりますけれども、もしまだちょっと言葉に不安がある方いらっしゃれば、日本語でも大丈夫です。James, I think we've got another
I can see. Yeah. I can see this question here. Shall I read it out and then I'll answer it? So, for seeking international career, I think it's important to get opportunities, such as internship in international cities like London. Although Warwick is relatively near to London, I think it still takes hours or so to commute between the cities. Although I want to learn what I want to learn, global education, I'm worried about the distance from London. What do you think about this point? Do you think the distance from London would be a problem for students who want to get an internship in London? That's a great question. The short answer to that is no, because it's actually not that far from Coventry to London. It's about an hour on the train. And a lot of organisations currently are open to sort of flexible arrangements. So we've had students who are doing hybrid kinds of internships. As I'm sure you're aware, there are a number of organisations that have moved to working remotely. So those are always opportunities, but I don't think it's that far to commute to London for a placement opportunity. And in fact, our students have done that in the past before and have had support from those organisations at times to facilitate their travel. So I wouldn't see that as a big barrier, but I think it's important to note that with the placements we've had this year, we've had students who have been working remotely in organisations in India, Pakistan, have been working in a lot of these organisations are also transnational. So there have been people who are working with colleagues who are based in Washington, Bangkok, all at the same time. They're on those calls. So I think part of it, the first answer is no, it's not too far to go to London. The second part is, and you might also be working in kind of more flexible ways anyway, given the nature of global education and the fact that there are often partners based in different parts of the world. So I hope that answers your question, but it's a really good one.
Thank you, James. ご質問ありがとうございます。とても面白いポイントですね。でロンドンまで1時間ということで、ウォーリックであればそこまでアクセスには困らないかなということでした。もっとたくさんの方が国際的な組織で、インターンをされていたり、オンラインでのミーティングなども多いので、距離は問題にはならなさそうです。ありがとうございます。他にも何かご質問だったり、 あと本日の感想でもちょっとディスカッションしてみたいことがあれば、ぜひ、お送りください。James,
Yeah.
since the master's degree is such a short time, so
Yeah.
if students want to experience many things, including internship and field work, would you encourage them to decide the topic they want to write for their dissertation before joining your course?
I mean, it can't hurt to start thinking about that early. Yeah. And to have to come in with kind of, yeah, if you come in with a passion, I think that that's really good. But equally, there is enough time to make some decisions. The way that we set up the course, the first module is understanding global education and international development. And that brings students into contact with key theories, key concepts, but also key contexts to think about. So a number of our students start to think about their dissertation topics and also what kinds of placements they might want to be connected to after the kind of first term, when they've had a bit of a sense of, oh, okay, I'm quite interested in, I don't know, international students, or I'm really interested in, international employability, or I'm interested in gender and education, or poverty reduction, or whatever they discover their interest might be. That there's still time to plan your placement and your thesis. So always good to come in with passion, but you still have time during the masters to discover it, I think.
Thank you very much. 今、時々皆様からよくいただくご質問で、修士課程がイギリスは1年間と非常に短いので、あらかじめ修士論文のテーマを決めてから、コースに参加した方がいいのかということを聞かせていただいたんですが、先生のご説明によると、まず1学期目に、例えば先ほどご質問がありました、グローバルエデュケーションとは何かについて、まずコンテクストについて学んで、そこから自分の興味関心を見つけていけば十分お時間はあるということでした。もちろん最初からパッションを持って入るのもとてもいいということですね。あと他に何か皆様の方からご質問などございますでしょうか。大丈夫そうですかね。So James, I think you have answered all questions, and I'm very happy to see the students are engaging your lectures very well. So thank you again for joining today and giving the great presentation.
My pleasure.
I think you might see some students in Warwick soon.
Oh, I really, really warmly welcome you, and I really mean it. I'm really happy to have a call, a chat, send me an email. Really happy to discuss things in greater detail if you'd like to. I'm really, really open to that, and would really, really love to welcome you to Warwick and to the program. I really believe in it, and I really think that it offers some great opportunities for our students. So yeah, please do get in touch if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. 皆様今日はご参加いただき本当にありがとうございました。では何かご質問があれば直接ジェームズ先生の方にでもSIUK でも出願のお手伝いをしておりますのでお問い合わせいただければと思います。では皆様の今後の学業の発展に本日のウェビナーがお役に立ちますことを祈っております。どうもありがとうございました。Thank you very much.